Are you lost driving online? Looking for a new destination for audible inspiration? Pull over here. This is Exit 18.
All right, everybody, how's it going? This is Chris Short from the New Paltz Regional Chamber of Commerce. And today my guest is Nick Mauro. He is the Manager of Recruitment and Workforce Development at Marist College, and he is also the owner of Your Career Spark, which is a career services and consulting firm right here in Poughkeepsie. Nick, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
Doing good. There's a lot of craziness going on right now. Thanks for taking the time to, kind of just step in, just have a conversation. And one thing that we're doing at the Chamber is reaching out to people like yourself to try and figure out, what's some of the good things going on out there. Do you have anything in the innovation or people stepping up during this time right now that kind of stood out to you that you want to share with the audience today?
That's a good question, because I think it needs like as much exposure as it can. There's a Feed the Front Lines initiative that I've seen going on in Dutchess County. I think they've got a Facebook page now where they are maybe once or twice a week trying to raise about $1,000 to feed all the staff over at like Vassar Hospital, and every time they purchase a meal or lunch or dinner, they're going to a different restaurant in the area, kind of like so it's been really neat to see. It's just like sprouted up overnight. The team keeps growing. It's inspired, I think, initiatives in some other counties. It's kind of like a national phenomenon. So it's been cool to see it land here in the Hudson Valley too.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely the people that are on the front lines taking care of everything right now, the unsung heroes of the current environment. So it's good to open up with the idea that there are some positive things going out there. I think there's a lot of people that are looking to the future during this time to try and figure things out. Tell me a little bit more about your background with Marist and the things that you're seeing, with your consulting firm and what that looks like, and with the landscape. Just give us a general overview of what's going on, in your world right now.
Sure. I mean, my background is, 14, 15 years with people. People at work is my thing. For profit, nonprofit. The other side of it, helping people find work. I hire people, through my talent acquisition stuff at Marist College, and in the consulting side, help people find their path. And then the, some of the consulting work is with some of the local businesses and nonprofits where there could be a one-time training and so forth. So what I'm seeing is really, probably similar to your experience. It's a little bit of everything. Some organizations were really well prepared or had remote work as part of their culture, and they did well to engage and manage projects with their staff. And then I think to be candid about it, you're seeing the opposite too. Folks who were not prepared, maybe set out a lot of mixed messaging early on. We're going to be safe, and then the next week they're doing layoffs. So, the long and the short of it is a little bit of everything, but I think the theme is really that most organizations were not prepared for this. They're still not quite sure what to do, not to do, what comes next. We don't really know what's next, but overall, that's I think the theme. So now I think in the next couple of weeks, you're starting to see conversations about, all right, we're going to be in this situation for a while. What do we do? How do we do it? And how do we prepare ourselves, I think, for what's next?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's, looking for that startup, the idea of a startup, has always been, a brand new business. But for the country coming up, we're going to have to start up again, right? So there's a lot of people that are in my circles, yourself included, that's starting to look at, what does 3 months, 6 months down the road look like for business? So how do you see innovation in the workforce kind of playing a role in that? I know there's a lot of conversations with my circles in the chamber that we're trying to look at things through that lens of what can we do to provide value for companies when we're ready to get things rolling again. What do you think? How does innovation play a role in that, in the things that you're saying?
I think, yeah, the whole world got put on pause, right? Especially New York State, the Hudson Valley, us being in the tri-state area. So, the startup mentality, I think is a healthy way of looking at this on the other side of it, that the world got turned upside down. We were all dealt a hand we weren't necessarily prepared for. what are we going to do to quite literally reinvent and restart ourselves? Because there's really, you know, not too many industries that were not like devastated by this, whether you're government, you know, higher education, healthcare. I mean, everybody was hit over the head with this. So I think, you know, when you start moving to what comes next, a little bit of normalcy, you know, we're seeing some staff go back to work, you know, the social distancing stuff, you know, maybe gets kind of lifted. I think you're going to need to do like two things. Have some kind of authentic process to assess what worked. You know, how did you end up in that situation to begin with? And then moving to not just ensuring it doesn't really happen again, but how are you competitive and capitalizing on this new environment that we're in, right? We're all getting a crash course in working remotely. And I don't think it's too premature to start looking at that as like, okay, we've all had to sit down and do like a 10-part training in how to work and lead remotely. What did we learn? What can we keep? What do we throw away? What do we use to kind of, you know, enhance our culture, our workforce? Can we keep components of this? Does this open us up to reaching new, you know, potential talent, you know, like right in like my wheelhouse, like across the country? Can we have a couple positions be super flexible, you know, so we can find and recruit and retain, you know, new types of talent, more diversity, different types of backgrounds and experiences. So I think, you know, for-profit, nonprofit, whoever and whatever you are, you know, if you left it up to me, you're assessing, you know, what happened, sure, but what are you doing from all of those lessons, right? So if you learned, Chris, 5 things having gone through this experience, what are you going to do to like springboard from this, right? You know, and I would make sure you bring everybody along too. You know, this is not just about leadership, right? We all went through this experience. You know, so making sure everybody feels a part of the solution as well, because I think it's going to take everybody for us to kind of, you know, see the other side of this.
I definitely agree. I think, you know, one of the things you and I were talking the other day about over communicating to your teams and trying to kind of put all of the information out there and be as transparent as possible. Do you think right now, a lot of companies, I think in the past, I've been working remote for years on different, you know, different projects, different positions. So it's kind of like a norm for me to have conversations like this. This has been a way of working for a long time, but I know a lot of businesses, especially larger, when you're talking about government and healthcare, colleges, nonprofits, financial institutions, working remote, there was a lot of hesitation for working, you know, this sort of way. Do you think a lot of businesses are going to open themselves up to, you know, right now it's a way where we have to work this way? Do you think this might be something, you know, they're cutting their teeth on this way of working? You think they'll kind of push that hesitation to the side and maybe embrace it a little bit more?
That's a great question, because the hesitation of remote work or flexibility in the workplace, I think, you know, in this region has come from a couple different places. One, it's just tradition. And the other component of it being, it's a generational difference as well, right? If, you know, we have 5 generations in the workforce right now, which is the first time in, you know, modern history, we've got, you know, 5 different generations in the same place trying to move the ball forward, right? So, you know, most leadership is that like Gen X or baby boomer who is accustomed to coming in, sitting at a desk, you know, the 9 to 5 and so forth. And I think it's important to understand that we all kind of look at the world a little bit differently. That's why psychologists and sociologists define these generations like it's a very, very real thing. So there is an opportunity right now, you know, to understand that, you know, a lot of employers in the region, you know, before all of this hit, we're struggling. You know, the conversations I was having with a lot of different organizations was, it's hard for us to find talent. It's hard for us to find that programmer or that development, you know, officer to do fundraising for us. You know, and part of that was just, you know, the tradition of how we staffed and built and ran our teams. So there is an opportunity to kind of re-engineer and re-innovate, you know, how you structure your organization and what does work look like, right? We know that if you're a a millennial or like your Gen Z being like 16 or so to like 25, they are very, digital, social. So I think you're doing yourself a disservice if you're in a leadership role and you're not taking a deep breath after this and trying to find ways to incorporate it, because it will help you solve the talent vacuum that's in the Hudson Valley, right? We know that some of the counties in the region are the demographics are shifting. The schools aren't quite as populated. It's tough to find that 20 to 40 something, to fill important roles in your organization. So maybe you can look a little farther geographically, build more of like a digital remote kind of team. So, I would encourage everybody to go through an exercise of looking at, how can we be a little bit more competitive, right? Because a labor market is a market, right? You're competing against other employers, and we don't always look at it that way. We look at it as like, well, they should come to us, right? We have the opportunity, whether it's volunteers, board members, you're competing for people's time, regardless of whatever the unemployment rate is. So I would encourage everybody to try to embrace it, because it's just going to be advantageous to how competitive you are when you look at work more broadly and not in like a narrow view.
I think that makes a good point. A lot of the people that I've been working with through the chamber are local, and a big piece of my staff right now is interns. And I know the other day we had a 2-hour Zoom call where we actually went through, built out strategies, incorporated our Slack channel to actually share those ideas, links, videos, different concepts. And for them, it was so smooth. What was impressive is there's a handful of people on some of the other committees and other groups that I'm working with that may not be so, digitally savvy. And every one of my interns stepped up and said, hey, here's something, I can show you how to use this, even if it is just click on that button or, go over there with the 3 little dots and expand that window. I think a lot of the younger generation that has caught flack in the past for being so, consumed with digital is now the one that can actually share that expertise. And I think a big piece of the conversation is for anyone that's not tech savvy to be a little bit humble. And to your point, say, hey, look, this is something a skill set that I don't have, that it's something that, I want to learn and be a part of, and reach out to those that have been digital natives, be it from someone working remote. I worked overseas for almost 5 years. So video conferencing and this type of stuff is natural. So I've shared that with a lot of people as well. It's interesting to kind of see where do you think this is going to be the new norm? How do you see business changing moving forward? That's the big talk right now is this the new norm?
I think in some industries and some places it should be, and it will be. Offering flexibility to your team, to your staff is an advantage, right? So why, it would be disappointing to see a lot of industries and businesses just throw this away as like, strictly a crisis and not as an opportunity to learn and kind of grow from it. So I think in some ways it will be a little bit of a new normal. If you're in an industry or a business or a nonprofit where it's hard, for you to find people, retain people, this could open doors, for you. So one of the things you can do too is when you do get everybody back around a physical table, right? Not remotely, is start getting into what worked. What did we do well while we were away, better than we did when we were, in the same physical space, and keep that as part of your culture. Like double down on that, to steal your term. Keep doing more of that. Why not? You were faced with a climate and a crisis, and you had to respond. So what you were able to do well, I think you'd be foolish to throw it away. And I think this will be a little bit of a new normal for most of us to some degree.
Yeah, I have to say that most of the staff and committee members that I've been working with, I think our productivity has actually gone up. Trying to, if you have a meeting or, an after hours kind of get together at a bar or a restaurant, you get a table in the back, it gets a little bit noisy and people are kind of preoccupied. I think productivity around here, you can have a cup of coffee and you can actually have a conversation and it really ties it all together. So I definitely see some value in this. I'm glad you brought up the point of let's not throw this away. Let's see if we can integrate it into a way of working in the future.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, do you think the idea of virtual networking is going to be something in the future? So do you have any do's and don'ts, or things that you've seen, things that you're looking forward to, or how should people navigate this new virtual space when it comes to networking?
I think for the foreseeable future, with gloves on, and I don't mean to allude to the crisis, but with caution. This is not a time right now to be selling anybody anything. And, I'm getting LinkedIn messages and everything, and it's a little tone deaf, right? So, if you were furloughed, if you were, laid off, or you're just using it as an opportunity right now to connect with more people digitally, I think just be mindful of your message, of the type of networking you're doing, what it is, what kind of connections are you trying to make, right now. I think it should just be as authentic as possible. I see the things that your company's doing over there. I'd love to learn more about what you do and how you do it and how you're getting through this. Just, I think, start by relating to people on a personal level. And that's where opportunities come from. If you're in the midst of a crisis and you're hard charging, for employment opportunities or business connections, a lot of that stuff is folks are kind of closed off for it. So I understand that there's now, they believe unemployment's now in the teens, and a lot of people are going to be looking for work. I would just be careful, with your language. But dues, it's always appropriate to network, right? I mean, the world is still moving along. So continue to be, putting yourself out there, share what you're doing. You don't necessarily have to be tracking down individuals. Spend some time on your LinkedIn page, write an article, make yourself an author in your industry. I see people doing that a lot. That's really trending on LinkedIn. Everybody's writing about their experiences right now. So start putting yourself out there, looking as a problem solver, volunteer for an organization or a business if you can. Ask them if they can spare 8 hours, work for them 1 day a week. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on right now, where if you can help, you're trying to find any which way, to help. So be open-minded, I think, in your networking.
I think that's a great point, that there's a lot of people out there that are sharing their expertise and kind of reaching out and mentoring or sharing their story. What's your feeling right now? I think a big push for us at the Chamber is building our business academy out behind the scenes right now. And one of the aspects of moving forward in the next few weeks is focusing on investing in yourself during this time, especially if you have those extra hours or that downtime where maybe sales are down or something has been put on hold, projects like that. What are your take on that idea of investing in yourself?
I mean, I think if you're not right now, you're maybe missing the mark a little bit. I mean, sure, just on the basis of having more free time, what are you doing, with your time? This is a good time to reflect. It's a good time to get feedback from your team, from your boss, and do a little deep diving, do a little bit of analysis of what it is you're good at, what you're not good at, and make sure right now that even if you are working remotely, you're probably a little bit slower than maybe, the norm. Being intentional in focusing on what you perceive to be your weaknesses. This is a time to grow, to kind of start writing your story, right? When they make movies, right, it's always about a great story during a crisis, a global, event. We don't really write a lot of stories about when things are going well, right? All the legends are born when things are not going well. So things are not going well. This is a crisis we might not ever see, maybe ever again. But, I'd say use it as an opportunity to first identify what it is you're maybe not good at, and then seeking out resources to get better at it, such as the business academy that you're going to be building. This was a failure in leadership, kind of widespread, government, business, nobody's immune to it, right? We all are holding all caught like, holding some accountability. So what did go wrong? What could you have done to kind of prevent it if you're in a leadership role? But as an individual, yeah, I mean, 100% start looking at what it is you can work on to try to be the best version of yourself when things get back to normal. So committing to learning right now, I think is really, really, really important for sure.
I like the point that you brought up that, there was definitely failures. And I think on the bigger picture, it's humbling to look back and think, where did things break down? And something that I try and do a lot with my teams after an event or, a big project is, the concept of thorns and roses, right? That's self-reflection. And it's real hard to be vulnerable and say, all right, this is where I dropped the ball. This is, instead of, soliciting platitudes from your team, to say, oh no, everything was great, everything was good. You get trapped in that bubble of, thinking that everything was smooth. And I think that kind of insulates us from events like this. And I think that's where it kind of caught us off guard, right? For the last 10 years, the economy's doing well, business has been doing well, everything's been up and to the right. That's something that I think we've all kind of gotten accustomed to. So now's not the time to kind of force those, those talking points of platitudes to say, no, everything was great. I think right now we have to reflect and say, we weren't prepared. Here's something that we need to strengthen. I think there's a lot to be said about creating an infrastructure now while we have the opportunity to self-reflect on personal and professional, different levels of things going on. Now's the time to invest in yourself and create that network, that circle of people around you. It's almost like you're, the circle of influence that people reach out to. I have 10, 12 people right now, yourself included, where we talk on a regular basis and kind of pick apart, things we could be doing, encourage each other to kind of keep moving forward. And it's that, I guess, the accountability buddy there that kind of keeps people going. How is that playing into our downtime right now? Do you have people in your network that are kind of keeping tabs on each other and, to kind of push that accountability forward?
Yeah, I'm being pretty intentional about talking to people I regularly talk to, maybe more frequently. And I'm also, doing what I can do to make some new connections, to get perspectives and input and expertise from folks, I've never really kind of engaged with, because this has been like a collapse of like epic proportions. So there's a lot of things that have occurred for us to get here. So, if somebody can, offer me a perspective, advice, or, recommended, kind of like direction, I want to hear it. I've been like wide open to try to reach people and talk to people, wherever possible. What was my role, in all of this? And then what can I do personally, on the other side of it? I don't know if I can recall, like, since I've been out of college, if there's ever been more of a prime opportunity to learn and make connections and reach out to people, challenge yourself. It'll be really fascinating to see what comes out of this. I think we're going to see like a renewed appreciation for each other and building connections and working together. I think it would be great to see, the across county lines, across the river kind of thing, like, everybody working together like never before. And that's on an individual basis. And I think, organization wise and so forth, but no one's going through this alone. And even when things are good, right? I mean, you're still not walking through the world solo, so I think we take, what we learn and experience from this, and we should apply it to the good times too. I mean, we've talked about this. I mean, I'm never going to forget, this experience and what I saw and heard and learned. And, hopefully everybody keeps that mindset.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's redefining who we are as people, right? The opportunities that we're taking advantage of now to better ourselves, our communication, build our teams, and show what we're made of, right? A lot of us, through the years, maybe haven't really been pushed, been tested to this scale. And it's really good to see, who's stepping up and, where you can fit into the bigger picture. Your final thoughts as we wrap up here. What do you want to leave everybody with? Do you have a personal mantra, or do you have something that's driving you forward in these last few weeks?
I mean, find find optimism right now. I think that's super important because a lot of what we're being exposed to that's beyond our control is uncertainty and really scary figures and statistics and press conferences at every level, state, county, nationwide. So we can't really control individually the way this is all going to go. So my thing has been, whether you run a small nonprofit or you're a senior leader in a bank or whoever you are, is optimism. I think this is causing all of us to take a look inside, who we are, what are we good at, and then, looking more broadly, right? Making new connections, and challenging yourself on the other side of this to be, that best version of yourself, like we were talking a little bit about before. This is a unique time and a unique opportunity. One day, 10 years, 20 years from now, when you're in the C-suite or you start your own business, I think we're all going to reflect on this time. So I think don't, kind of close your eyes and ears to what's going on right now. Pay attention, learn, from others, learn from yourself, and remain optimistic. I think this crisis can help you kind of leap forward, in your life, personally, professionally. I know personally and professionally, I'll never really look at the world the same way again. So, and just get through today. I think that's important. We have no idea what we're going to be doing, next week, next month. So just be optimistic one day at a time, and look for opportunities, I think, at every turn.
That's a good one. Take one day at a time and look for opportunities. I like that. Nick Mauro, thanks for spending time. What's the best way if somebody wants to reach out? How can they get in touch with you?
The easiest way to find me is just jump on my website. It's just yourcareerspark.com. It's all about who I am, what I do, and it's super easy to reach me. I'm willing to help and talk to people of all types for free right now. I'm hearing from people all over the place. Just trying to do my part. So, if you joined us today, shoot me a line. I'd love to, talk to you for 10 to 15 minutes about what you're seeing and doing and how, maybe we can havp each other.
That's awesome. Everybody, Nick Mauro, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
We'll catch you here next time on the Exit 18 podcast. Have a good one, everybody. See you later.